Hello and welcome to another episode of Live 605. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Con Kazantzidis. It's so good to see you. And I'm seeing you either on Facebook, that's right, through our Facebook page, or on YouTube, and of course, through the Twitterverse. Twitter has gained so much momentum lately that I decided that I should re-enter the fray, come back into it and do my thing there. It's lovely of those of you that have joined us. If you are new to this particular program, put the word new below so as I can give you special treatment. I can have you sit at the front of the class and introduce yourself a little bit later. No, I'm not going to do that. Paul Phillips, good evening, sir. Another beautiful summer's day in paradise. Yes, I don't know what paradise you're referring to, but it seems to have clouded over here. It's a little bit... There's some inclement weather. It's raining, but that's okay. Rain, hail or shine, we're here on Wednesdays at 6:05. Of course, if other things come in, get in the way, then I have to offer my apologies and so on and so forth. So that's it. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. Firstly, I'm going to do the usual product spotlight, which is, it's become a thing now. This is a segment. It actually resides in its own little corner of this live. Isn't that great? Hey, it's only been here a handful of times, and it's got its own little corner. As I hope you have as well. You're watching, you're comfortable, you're seated, because what I'm about to tell you may make you fall down from all the excitement. And it is a very exciting episode, actually, because today we're going to talk about a topic that I have been asked to cover. By the way, thank you for people that slide into my DMs. I know that's a kind of a neologism, a new kind of term. People slide into your DMs and ask me to do certain things. And it really helps me because it means that I don't have to constantly be thinking of new and creative ways to entertain both myself and, more importantly, you. It's about education, and that's the important thing. So we're going to talk about shave creams. Now, before you switch off and say, oh, I'm not really, you'll be interested. You will be interested. Who have we got here? Dave James. Dave James is new every week. Every single week he's new, and we like that. In fact, our body, our cells renew themselves every so many months. I know red blood cells take 120 days to renew. So there you go. Pouring rain in Brisbane. We've had quite a sort of wet summer, but that's okay. That's okay. We shall continue with that. Who have we got there? We've got, is that my good friend Mitch? Mitch. Viomichania, that's right. I love it. Love it. Thanks for joining us, Mitch. I like to do this. I know that sometimes I throw a message to a friend and say, listen, why don't you just tune in and watch, and I'll make the next 20 minutes or so miserable for you before you have to put the kids to sleep or whatever it is that you're doing. But anyway, I digress, and I don't want to do that because you're here for a reason. So we're going to talk about a couple of things in relation to shave creams, things like ingredients, attributes. We'll cover the advantages and disadvantages of certain packaging, because creams don't only come in tubes, they come in tubs and all sorts of other things. And then we'll look at product stability and storage, how you should store these products. Now, of course, when selecting a shave cream, if that's your thing, if shave creams are your thing, then scents and brand names and all that kind of thing is entirely up to you. Your mileage, of course, may vary, but I'm going to highlight and underscore some key points from a very general perspective. And this is true, I would say, of most products. And so this means then that I will be able to allay any of your fears or probably, hopefully, get you to investigate creams further if it's not something that you've been doing. I know a lot of people use gels. They like to use shave gels. Others just use soap. Others just use hard soap. So there's all these sorts of combinations and permutations. So, yes, we're going to talk about that. Well, we've got a few people that have joined us. Now, it's Mitch is saying it's El Niño this year. I thought it was is it El Niño or is it El Niña? I'm not quite sure. I think it probably is La Niña. It's not El La. If we have any Latin-based people, speakers on the live, perhaps they can. Oh, we do. We have Dino De Rosa, and he will now enlighten us with his Italian. Calispera con posise. Dino, what are you doing? I'm well. I hope you're well too, Dino. So let's get down to business. Obviously, whenever we're talking about a particular product, we're always looking at ingredients. And most, if not all, shave creams are designed to assist you in shaving. In other words, they provide slickness, they provide some form of protection and lubricity or lubricosity, or lubricate your skin in such a way, and also keep moisture there as much as possible. Canned goo does not do this. When you take things out of a can, apart from the butane and isopropyls and all these propellants that are in the can, they are emulating lather. So they're a different animal. We're not going to talk about those. We're talking about creams. Now, there are two different types. Obviously, there's lathering and non-lathering creams, or the schmear, as we call it. You just put some on your face with your fingers, and it's not designed to lather. I principally want to talk about lathering creams. And there are ingredients that you should look out for. And some of them, interesting, when you look at them, obviously the order of ingredients tells you something about the formulation. But all of these shaving creams should contain these particular ingredients. I know chemistry can be quite a daunting, proposition for some, but I'm just going to make it as simple as possible for myself as well as you. And let's discuss this very, very quickly. You may or may not be surprised to know that at least 80% of most shaving creams are made of water. So you're paying for water, essentially. Well, 80%. And then all the magic occurs after that, okay? Usually, if they want to make it sound exotic, they'll call it aqua. In fact, I should have some aqua. Please hydrate. I can't stress that enough. Oh, I love it. Okay, right. So water, and as I said, in some cases it can be as high as 80%. This is across all shave creams. Doesn't matter what shave cream we're talking about. You're going to get water. The other very important ingredient is stearic acid. Sometimes it's palmitic acid. Yes, that word palmitic refers to palm oil, and we can demonize this all night until the orangutans come home, or perhaps not come home if we're using palm oil, but we're not going to discuss that in any great way. Then, my favorite, TEA, or triethanolamine, which is basically an emulsifier. It brings all the ingredients together. It is not toxic to skin. It's reasonably safe, unless, of course, you ingest it. If you consume any of these products, if you take a tube of shave cream and ingest it, you might have a tummy ache at the end of it. So I don't suggest you eat this stuff, okay? It's like getting a little bit on your face when you're shaving or whatever it is. But yes, it's not going to kill you, right, in the amounts that you would find in glycerin. I just deliberately, I could have said glycerin, but I wanted to say glycerin. Let's bring some diversity into this. I'm testing my French. So glycerin will typically be in there. And then there'll be a whole lot of butters. It could be, jojoba butter, the macadamia butter, all these butters, shea butter, all these wonderful things. But the one that I really, really like, and the one that I really look out for, is myristic acid. And I want it fairly high up in the list. So obviously you're going to have water and stearic acid, but if it's in the second, third, fourth, if I see myristic there, I'm a happy man. Why? It is a long-chain fatty acid, and this is what takes the place of the butters. Once you introduce a natural butter into a formulation, that formulation starts to, this is everything, mind you, not just butters, we do too, starts to deteriorate over time. And another contentious issue, of course, is how you preserve these products, how you keep them in their packaging for as long as you possibly can. Parabens were really, really good at doing that. Parabens are not so good for us, it appears. A number of extensive research has been conducted on lymph nodes and on horrible things like breast cancer and so on and so forth. So parabens have thankfully been removed from these products, and that means that we need to find other ways of extending the life of these products, and because they will just fall apart. If you make something at home and put it in the fridge, let's say it's a tiramisu or something like that, and this is food consumption, it's only going to do, 3, 4, 5 days. You're starting to push it once you go to 10. Products are the same. Creams especially are something that you've really got to be very careful with. So there is also typically a preservative lower down in the list, usually ends in ol, which implies that there's some sort of alcohol or stabilizer there, which will give that product longevity. The magic occurs, though, between the glycerin and the myristic and stearic acids, right? We're not going to go into a chemistry lesson on the process of saponification, but basically we could do that in another episode, another live. But essentially, these are the things that you should find typically in a shaving soap. If, however, you see things like oleic acid, which is olive oil acid, that will feel wonderful on the skin, may not produce a great lather though, and that's the thing that we need to know. And so if you're not, huge on this whole lather thing, I happen to be the fan of, I want my creams to lather, then that may present a problem. But que sera. Right. So they're the things you should be looking out for. There's a whole list of things that shouldn't be in there. As I said, we won't talk about those. Parabens being, methylparaben and ethylparaben, anything paraben, enter at own risk. Yeah. They're great because they make your creams last 3 or 4 years, but what's happening in order to retard that process of degradation over time? You've got to ask yourself that question. Right. So typically, creams come in 2 types of packages. They come in either a tub, right? And let me just get rid of these ingredients. They come in a tub or they come in a tube, and they both have their uses. I've used both. Tubes are great when you're traveling, obviously, if you need to put things in your bag. Those of you that are still traveling, sometimes going from the bathroom to the bedroom is traveling. That's enough. You can say, look, I'm traveling. I just use a tube of my favourite shave cream. Now, there are things I need to explain about these packaging scenarios. Companies that make these products operate with economies of scale. They wish to get as much of the product into a commercially viable, for them, packet that will be purchased by the consumer, who can then say, oh, wow, look, I love this soap. It's great. Isn't it fantastic? Whatever. Now, that's great, but there are advantages and disadvantages, and I want to discuss those with you. The disadvantage I guess, of using a tube is that it's, firstly, it's a little bit more expensive. Typically, costs a little bit more than a tub does. What do you do with a tube once it's done? I mean, there's an environmental aspect to that. Those of you who care about that, there's generally a lot less in terms of quantity. It's a little bit harder to try and control how much product you use, although you quickly become used to how much you need or don't need. Versus the tub, which is it's quite, there's quite a bit in there, and you can, once you regulate that, you're good to go. Now, can I please share something with you? Because the person that asked me to do this thing on creams also said, how do I lather my creams? Well, firstly, if I'm using a tub, all I do is I take some out with my finger and put it on my brush, or if I'm bowl lathering, which is rare these days, but I do still bowl lather, I'll put a smear of that in the bowl, and that's it. I do not, used to, but don't anymore, put a wet brush, I don't care how much you wring it out, a wet brush into the cream. Why? Well, because I'm introducing even more than all this. If it starts off with 80% water, then you're adding even more water. You can't vouch for look, microbes are everywhere. We know that. We're living through an enormously challenging time with microbes. We know what they're like. They get everywhere. So I have moved away and did so many, many years ago, and I'll show you why. I'll show you a gross example of why I've done that. Moved away from putting a wet brush into there. The temptation is there because it's round, it's circular, you want to go for it and you want to do what you do with soaps. Different story with soaps. Creams, however, as soon as you open the cream, your time starts now. Creams are not going to last as long, unless, of course, they've got parabens and things in them, which will give them longevity. So what I do is just scoop a little bit out, and of course, in the beginning, you scoop too much out. It's always the case. And you just place it on the brush. You take your brush and just put it into the bristles of the brush, wet it, and just start slowly if you're lathering on the face, and then build more vigorously. And of course, the cream will be distributed throughout the bristles, and you're good to go. Now, please avoid putting a brush in a tub. One thing I will show you, and people have asked me, what do you look for apart from the ingredients? I mean, sometimes these ingredients are so tiny that you need an electron microscope to read them, and when you can read them, you don't know what those ingredients are about. There's a quick test. Whenever you go into a place, if they've got testers, open it up, have a look at it, squeeze a little bit out, and what you should be looking for is a pearlescent type cream, and by that I mean this. It's got to have a slightly pearl effect on it. Not like toothpaste, right? If it's toothpaste-ish or if it's too runny, but it's got to have that kind of pearlescence. And it almost looks a bit oily, right? That's what you should be looking for. That's what you should be looking for. And so pearlescent look with those ingredients that I mentioned earlier, and you should be okay. Now, are they all going to lather fantastically? No. Horses for courses. There are different creams that lather in different ways, and you've got to adjust that using the amount of water. In fact, I think lathering a cream, everyone says, oh, it's easy to get a lather. Yes, it is. It is. But it relies heavily on the ratio of product to water, as do all shave soaps, but in particular with creams, because if you go too far with a cream and you get this really large bubbled mess, then you can't bring it back. You're going to have to squeeze half a tube in there just to bring it back. So go with a damp but not soaking brush and build slowly. Right. Let me show you some stuff. This is basically, I showed you a picture of one. Now I'm going to show you one in what it really looks like when I'm using it. So you can see there's just a little bit that's been used. That's my fingerprint in there. Just take a little bit out. Typically, I've just had a shower, I've washed my hands, so my hands are as clean as they possibly can be. Take a little bit, put it on the brush, and I'm done. I used to, however, use a brush, and I use this as an example, and I've kept it. Now, this has been going for, I don't know how long I've had this cream for. It was, early days. You know what brand it is, you can see it. This is what happens when you use a wet brush. And even if you let it air out, you're going to have problems. You're also going to have something that looks like this. I'm really sorry. I hope you're not eating dinner. No, it's not that bad, but it's not that good either. All right. Here we go. Yeah. What are those craters and those little things there? What are they? You know, if we'd sent a probe to the moon and saw this little square thing on the horizon, we would make up all these stories. I don't know where to begin with this story. I do actually. Don't use a brush, a wet brush, if you can. I know some people use it. If you're going to burn through this soap in 3 or 4 weeks and you live in an environment that's not very humid and it's very, very, very dry, in other words, you live in the desert, then this might be okay. Otherwise, be prepared for this. It's gross, isn't it? Sorry. That's what happens when water from the brush gets in there. Plus, not only water. I mean, this is something that you're using on your face. You're putting it back into a, on top of cream. It's pretty gross. Don't do it if you can. Please please, please, please avoid doing that. Do we have any comments? We probably do. This is from Paul. Don't eat the shaving cream. I guess you will. It's got me drinking the aftershave too. Yes. Don't drink the aftershave and don't eat the shaving cream, but you can lick the alum. No, don't lick the alum. There are people that love the taste of alum. Geo Fat Boy loves it. I don't know what it is. People love it. The tube is certainly not as messy. That's right. It's a controlled dose. It comes through a much smaller aperture, and you can do things with it, and control how much product is coming out, and that's pretty important. The other thing that's important is, try, as I said, keep water away from it, but also storing it. Please don't store them on a windowsill that gets more than 3 seconds sunlight. Keep them in a cool, stable environment underneath the cup, where you would keep your aftershaves. I think that's what I would do. Ice greetings from San Diego, California. Hello, sir. Nice to see you. I'm glad that I love San Diego. And more than just the zoo and the Comic-Con, I have to say. San Diego is a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Which would I prefer using, shaving soap or shaving cream? That's a good question. I prefer using soap. I enjoy creams too, but cream I will reach for if I'm traveling. If I'm in a hurry, although usually if I'm in a hurry and I know I have to shave, I just make time. I try and organise myself around. I would have to say shaving soap. My dear late father used to use creams. He loved them, loved creams, right? Something that he learned, from his barber. Although at home he would experiment a little bit, but mainly once he found a cream that he liked, that was it. He bought container loads of it, and we still may have some somewhere. I don't know. No, you can get a really, really good lather from a cream, but creams, not all creams are born equal. They are very, very different. You have to experiment with them. Quite often you see on the forums and places where people discuss, creams and things like, I don't want cream. I'm not going to say there's a snobbery, but there's this whole thing of, hey, we're the dudes that use the shave soaps and triple mill soaps and Mitchell's wool fat. That's all. I just look at Mitchell's wool fat and, I can lather it with just by looking at it, staring at it. And that's because that's what I've been doing. I've been shaving for years, and well, you need to get away from that. We all need to get away from that. Just use what works for you, and that's it. But you need to experiment a little bit with creams. But once you dial in a cream, there's no reason why you wouldn't do it. I don't think it's cost effective. There's an immediacy to it. I find that creams give off scent a little bit more, so they lend the scent to the experience a little bit more. So do soaps, and these days there are some nuclear-powered soaps where you can smell them even when the lid's on them. So the scent thing is not really an issue, but it's there. It's something that people do. So I would have to say I prefer soaps. We'll use creams, but it depends essentially on the circumstance. Right. Hi, Leo. How long would I expect a tub of cream to last? Now, I'm going to assume that I've only got this tub of cream, and it's not part of a rotation. In other words, I'm using this and this alone, and using the old, I take a little bit and smear it on my face and then go have at it with a brush. I would say, look, 6 to 8 months. When I first started with creams, it would be 6 to 8 days. Too much. I use too much. We all use too much in the beginning, and it's a problem, right? And then you start to say, hang on, I don't need to use this much, and just sort of whittle it down. Not for any reason. I mean, I know there are people that can just shave with steam these days. They just use steam to shave. Not me. I'll use product. If it's there, I'll use it. I don't like keeping tubs for longer than 12 months. And in fact, a lot of these companies would like you not to keep them for longer than 12 months. They have a little, now I'm going to see if I can do this and show you. There's, see how we go with that. There's a little sign there with you can see there's a little tub there that says 12. Hang on, I'll get it right soon. Yep. Anyway, there's a little tub. with an open lid that says 12, 24 or whatever, use it within that time frame. So if I'm using it, okay, and this is also assuming that I'm shaving every day. Okay, so if you're shaving every day and the cream is not part of a rotation, but the only thing I use, yeah, I'd say 6 to 8 months I could get out of it. Yeah, not in the early days though, no. As you get more experience, you know how much to use or not use, and that improves. So I would say that. Now, if you've had a cruddy tub in your shaving cabinet for longer than 18 months or so, I'd be checking on it, just going in there, seeing as you would, checking on it and seeing how it is, like you would check on on a child or something, because this can happen. One more time. I know you want to see it. These things need care, right? You've got to look after them. Keep them as dry as possible. Dispense out of the tub and you should be fine. This is why tubes are a good idea. The other thing is, if for any reason the environment that you're in, you can't control those sorts of variables. In other words, you're in a very, very humid environment, or, tube is safer. Okay, I'll say that. You can get Vegemite in tubes too. There must be something in that. So, yes, that's how I would say. How long do shaving soaps last, especially if unopened? Right. So, if the tub says 12 months, then once you've opened it, you've introduced air into the equation. No matter how much we try and purify air, there are microbes floating in the air. Those microbes will settle. And if they are the right microbes, then things will start to fester and grow. If you get through that product and you're using it frequently, then obviously that is going to be something that will, But I would say if somebody had gifted you a tub of cream that you said you were going to get to at some stage, and they gifted it to you a year ago, and assuming that they bought it from somewhere that may have had it for 3 to 6 months, will it hurt you? Is it off? Probably not, but I'd check, right? The good thing about this is there are visible signs. Now, on a harder soap or on an artisan soap, we get these little spots which are called stearic acid spots. Those things are a natural part of the soap. They're very unsightly. They don't look nice, but they're not going to affect the performance of the soap, and they're certainly not going to be subject to the same sorts of things that a cream would be. I think of a cream as something that's a little bit more, I'm going to put it, kind of a little bit more alive and a bit more organic, simply because of its consistency and because of its texture. Things can kind of hang out there a bit more. In a harder soap, especially in a triple milled soap, I mean, I mentioned Mitchell's wool fat earlier. There's probably Mitchell's wool fat out there from the time of Tutankhamun. Well, that's an official lie. I don't know if Mitchell's wool fat was not around during the time of the pharaohs, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so it's not going to go off. They are the things that we need to consider. So, nothing wrong with creams. Love creams. For me, it depends on the situation, the context. Will I reach for a cream over a soap? 9 times out of 10, I will reach for a soap or a crope. Creams are, I've used creams, I said, when I've travelled, or if there's, I tell you when I use creams, when I test them. When I test I want to test a new cream, I put it through its paces because I need to have an informed opinion about it, and that's when I will use it. The other thing is shower shavers. You know who you are. You're out there. I know you are. Taking this into the shower? I don't know. Probably not. Taking a tube into the shower and dispensing how much you need, like you would a shampoo or whatever, it's a little bit easier. And if you're just doing the schmear, then obviously the tube you can see is the clear winner there. But essentially, that's it. When these creams are manufactured, part of the manufacturing process requires that they are tested for stability. Now, less so when hard or triple milled soaps are manufactured, will they test for stability. There may be some fluctuations or inconsistencies with the stearic acid batch or whatever the case may be, and it may produce like a cloudiness or a milkiness or a dustiness on top of the soap after it's cured. That's, again, a visual thing. It mightn't be anything to do with the efficacy of the soap or whether it works really well. So that may not be an issue. But with creams, testing needs to occur. So what they do is they put it through a 4-week test. They test these products, these cream products, in any number of conditions, the whole windowsill thing in an incubator. They test them to see how they perform and what sort of microbes would be growing on that cream, if any. But the manufacturer says, look, we are producing a product that is designed to help you get the best possible shave and nothing else. It's not a garnish. It's not something that you buy and, this is what it's for. It's for specific purpose. And if it's used for its intended purpose and used in that time that we have very carefully stamped on the back of the product, i.e. 12 months, 24 months. I haven't seen a 36-month one. I know they're out there, but I haven't seen too many 36-month ones. So that gives you an idea. 12 to 18 months is something that I would stress, and certainly after opening. When these products are made, they're sealed and they go out. They're not hermetically sealed, of course, but they're sealed. And the assumption is through testing that if you open this tub, then you're going to really look to get through it within the next 12 months or so. Leo, I hope that has answered your question. Yes, yeah. And if it's unopened, look, as I say, if it says 12 months after opening, would you push it to 18? Look, you'd probably get away with it. All of these things are guidelines. And I think if you consider the company that has to do this testing and put things through the laboratory and make these statements, they are covering themselves, right? So if they know their soap is great for 24 months, they'll say, listen, try and use it in that 18. Why? There may be something there. There may be something with your water supply. There may be, I don't know, whatever. You might have had the kid put his finger in the soap. He was playing around with it. People that have young children, kids love this stuff. They get their hands in it and all this sort of stuff. And, oh, come on now, Daddy wants the cream. Bring it back here, bring it back here. Next thing you know, you've got little grommets and things growing in it. I don't know. That's why they're trying to cover this. That's what it is. It's their disclaimer, if you like. And they're kind of saying, buyer beware. If you think you're going to use this for the next 12 years, probably not. But that's it. We've done everything we can at our end, is what they're saying, essentially. And from the time that you open this product and let the genie out, genie needs to have left the building completely within a 12-month period. Have I used products beyond that? Yes, I have. Have they been diminished in any way? Yes, they have. In fact, maybe it's time to go home and have a look at your shaving cabinet and say, right, time to go. This, forget it. I've had that too long. I know it's sentimental or whatever. Unless it's sentimental value. I mean, that's different, okay? Even aftershaves, they will deteriorate over time. Everything does. Now, it's no surprise, or maybe it is, maybe it isn't, on what we're going to talk about today in terms of product spotlight. So, without further ado, yes, product spotlight. We're going to talk about creams. This is the Truefit and Hill cream. In 2014, people were going on and on and on about these creams. Oh, yeah, Truefit and Hill, they're great there. And then they said, oh, no, they're not. They're not that good. They're not great. I have customers that love them. They swear by them. And I'm honest with people. I say, look, I can get a good shave out of them. Are they the best shave in the world and all the rest of it? That's up to you to decide. Okay, they've got a royal warrant. That probably counts for something. Not that I'd imagine the palace is filled with shaving experts. However, yes, comes in tubes and also in tubs. This is the West Indian limes. If you're a fan of limes, you might not like this. It's not a limey lime. There's something else going on there. There's a bit of, I don't know, like a basil or something. It's limey, but it's not the lime you may be thinking of. So if you're interested in something like that, just get a sample first. Don't commit to buying the whole thing. Get samples. They exist. They are out there. They do, as I say, they do work. You will need to understand the peculiar. Every soap has its own idiosyncrasies and peculiarities, and they drive differently. Right? They're all great, but they drive differently. They're different things. So once you dial in how to work this particular soap, there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't have a great experience. Price-wise, the tubs are $39.95 Australian in a 190-gram tub. So to answer that question of how long would this last, if I was using this and this alone, nothing else, just the True Fit and Heal tub, and I was shaving every day, I'd probably, as I say, I could get it to 8 months easy. Yeah, I'd say 8 months. Now, I shave the noggin as well as the face, so there's a different, I make sure that I put enough product in the bristles of the brush and build our lather and spend time building the lather, but not with a soaking brush. Please don't do that. Go drier with a brush and then incremental addition of water, and you will have a wonderful, wonderful shave. That's it. So, yeah, if you're interested, great. If you're not, great. I hope that has demystified shaving creams to some extent. There are supermarket shaving creams you can buy. You can give them a go as well. I've tried them. They've been okay. Look, it's a soap. One of the things, look for things like potassium hydroxide needs to be in soap. Sodium hydroxide may or may not be there. If both are there, obviously potassium will be higher up in the list of ingredients because that's what gives it its softness. But also it means it's a super soap. There are a super fatting process and all that stuff. We can talk soap making another time, but it's a very interesting topic. But yes, I think that's about it. That's about it. Anyway, the time has come for me to go. Thanks for joining us on this live, and we'll see you in the next one.